And here's the intro.
Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is here with Nora Ames. How's it going, Nora?
It's good. It's good to see you. It's been many minutes.
It's been a long time. Has it been like over 2 years? It would have been definitely before March 2020. I think in terms of before Rona and after Rona.
My friend, since we've physically seen each other, it's been since like 2017, 2016.
Was that in New York?
No, I wasn't invited to New York. But,
Where? It was when I was in LA.
No, you came to California.
That's right. That's right.
And we had lunch at the fancy place in Malibu.
That's right. Absolutely. but even since then, we haven't done a chat on the channel in what feels like at least several years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what the hell's new with you, Nora?
Yeah. I don't know, just living life, working, raising 4 kids, doing lots of stuff, existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's tell everybody where you are. You're in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yes. Up here in the ever lovely Pacific Northwest. It is a balmy 37 degrees here today. So yeah, we're living large.
So let's tell everybody how we know each other. We first met in 1996.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Clearwater Florida flag.
Back in the 90s, kids were probably most of you were born dead. Yeah, we met in beautiful Florida where you still live for some God.
Oh my God. Keep telling the people the story. I'm going to go grab my photo book right now. It's right nearby.
Go get you. Oh God, get the photos. Okay. So we met in training, me and baby Aaron. We were both babies then. And Aaron was working for the Philly org and I was working for Celebrity Center at the time. We were both in training to be a part of the very first wave of the original, thank you very much, original golden age of tech. And we met, I think it was probably during the TRs stuff, we became friends and bonded when we all just sit there staring at each other for just hours and hours and hours. And we were part of this like motley ragtag crew. Somehow we all bonded and just like started hanging and going to like the one stoppy shoppy constantly to go and like eat. There we are. Look at me with my dead lettuce tie and my hair. Oh my God.
Look at me with hair. I'm the tall one in the photo.
With hair. Look at there's you, just the tall beanpole, and there's Justin, and then oh crap. Well, there's Anna next to me, and then there's baby boy, my little Pokey. Look at you.
So we got me, Justin Farmer, Alyssa Elsner, you, Anna Ibarra, Jennifer Gendusa, and Greg Holtz.
The little Gregory.
And some dude from UK walking by.
Right, the UK guy. And we all had our Albertsons vests on.
Oh yeah, so those vests mean you are an outer org trainee at Flag from
right. And we would all march down the street like it's so culty in like a wave in this sea of like blue vests that were just disgusting and filthy because we could never wash them because they're made of that horrible polyester that who knows who even like made those things. Like they were sewn by like who, I don't know. And then like you would just arrive and get this like vest and you're like, I'm a trainee now. And the people who are sec checkers got like the red, remember they got the red bar, the red thing around. You were like, uh-oh, those guys are sec check. Don't talk to them about anything. They're going to know all your secrets right away.
Here's, oh my God. Okay, I'm going to bust out a joke with this one.
Oh right. God.
Okay.
Look there's at Alyssa.
Nora pretending not to be gay.
Alyssa was very in love with me. If she's watching the show,
she was in love with you and I was in love with her. Everybody knew it.
Very in love with Alyssa. I had a little bit of a crush on Anna. I'm not going to lie.
Anna Ibarra?
Yeah.
I think everybody did.
How could you not? Sorry.
The best thing about these,
if you're out there, I know the last I heard, she was married with children and all that stuff. I don't know if she's still doing it. I mean, she was at Sacramento org for 5 million years.
Yeah. All the craziness that went on at the Sacramento org. I'm going to keep this a PG rated stream, but between all the stuff that went on with those girls and John Nunez, and now everything I'm finding out about Johnny Mauer, it's like, Jesus Christ.
The things that we collectively know, like, and have experienced, and things like, I watch these Netflix specials about, like, okay, but speaking of Netflix specials, like this thing Gunther's Millions, about the supposed countess that left hundreds of millions of dollars to the German Shepherd, and then it turned into like a sex cult. I am so fascinated by that, but only because, like, as a cult escapee, you know, like going through all the weird stuff we did, like when I see things like that, I just go like, wow, that is just crazy. Like, you know, it's fun to see things that are crazier, or I can point at something that's crazier. Oh man, Pookie. Hi, Pookie.
And then
Anna.
Anna and Christina Ibarra. I don't have any photos of Christina. She wasn't really part of our group.
No, because she left earlier. Like she finished and went home or whatever. She was gone.
Nah, she was offloaded for sure. She didn't finish anything.
Right. She finished.
She didn't finish anything but John Nunez.
You were keeping it PG, Aaron.
I don't think YouTube will detect that one. Oh and,
man. See, this is what happens when we get together, kids. It gets real bad. Also, my mom says hi and says to say hi to your wife.
Hi. Let's see. So we had a very intense, I don't know, was it 6 months, a year? Like how close? So the whole training program ended in May 96. When did you get there? Just so it's sort of like we really knew each other for like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And then we've just known each other ever since, because by the time, and because you went back to Los Angeles at the Celebrity Center, right. I went back to Philadelphia. The next time when I ended up finally joining the Sea Org in Los Angeles, you know, in 2002,
you left staff, you and your brother decided to become actors.
Well, not really.
And you guys, the next time I saw you, you're like stroll into Celebrity Center, like, hey, look at me. I'm an actor now. I have a
that's not true.
I've been on television.
I was never on course at the Celebrity Center.
Yes, it was.
No, I was never on course at the Celebrity Center.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You don't get to edit that out of your history, sir.
We might have come in to say hi, but we had preloader bills.
Fucking headshots. Like, look at me.
Just to say hi.
I am awesome now. I am doing acting. And we
just
were
to say hi.
Justin and I were like, what in the actual fuck? Like, and we literally, as soon as you left, we were like, we are not treating that fucker like a celebrity. Like, he can go fuck himself. Like, are you kidding me? Justin's like, I've seen that guy take a shit. Like,
no one's seen me do that. That's not true. You can't say that on YouTube anyway.
Take a poop?
Shh, can't say that.
I can't say poop?
I don't know. Who knows these days?
You can say poop.
Yeah, so then
Melon's on YouTube. Come on.
So then in 2002, by the time I actually got to the Sea Org in LA,
right,
you were already doing the RPF at that point, right?
Yes. I think at that time, was that 2002 when you finally joined the Sea Org?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you were just hanging out in LA for a while, or you were back?
No, I was only in LA until 2000, and then I went back to Philly to finish the last 2+ years of my contract.
Right.
And so,
and then the next time I saw you, I was on the RPF, and then you were already in the Sea Org, and I was like, "Oh, you're in the Sea Org now." And I was embarrassed because I saw the RPF.
Yeah, and then what? We didn't even get to be on the Aftermath show together because you were on the other show that never aired.
Yeah, that, you know, what was dumb about that is I remember you telling me don't do this show when we were like doing the whole thing. And yeah, the backstory behind that whole show, you know, like I think, yeah, that's a whole, we could do.
Do you know what's crazy? I was interviewing one former member of Nexium.
Oh, yeah.
And she was telling me there was a whole bunch of drama between the former Nexium people because there was 2 different TV shows.
Are you kidding me?
There's the one that I think is more popularly known, The Vow.
Right.
But then there's another one, and they were trying to poach each other and stuff, just like the Aftermath stuff.
You know, let me just say this about the other show, because it's probably never going to see the light of day. The problem with the other show, and this is what I told them from the get-go when they approached me and when they came to me with the idea for the show, and when Jamie DeWolf approached me to the idea of the show, which was, on the surface, the idea of approaching Scientologists with their disconnected family member and trying to then forcibly reconnect the family member with the disconnected family member. I said, okay, number one, it's never going to happen. Yeah. That's not how any of this works. Like, I understand your premise. Like, you're going to do all this legwork and you're going to try and reunite families. Like, it's altruistic, and I get where you're coming from. Like, you are coming from this with like a good heart, like, hey, I want to help this son talk to his mom, or I want to help this mom reconnect with their kid, or whatever it is you're trying to like figure out. Like, I get that has heart. It definitely, viewership would be like rooting for the underdog. However, as you and I both know, growing up in this thing, it was going to be a disaster from the start. And all that was going to end up happening, and I informed them very directly, all that is going to end up happening is everyone involved with this production is going to be hunted, is going to be like blackballed, it's just going to be like a disaster from the start. And the people who are going to say yes to this show are going to end up in a worse spot than when they started. Like, yep. They hired me as a consultant to help them with like basically translating Scientology for the crew, and also to give them guidance on like, what would be a good approach for this particular case, like how could they get this person to respond, within the policy or whatever. And I tried my best to like guide certain scenarios and stuff, but it's like, ultimately the one successful reconnection that happened during the show was already going to happen anyway, because ultimately the mom and son that reconnected, the mom was hoping to reconnect with her son. And
remind me which one that was.
I don't remember their names, but like he just got, like the show put him in a position to talk to his mom. And then his mom was like, well, I just thought you didn't want to talk to me. Like it was one of those conversations where both parties just hadn't had the conversation. It was an awkward conversation. And yes, it was hard for her to like walk away from the church, but ultimately she made the same decision that my mom did. However, it took me 16 years of literally like bit and piece, giving my mom tiny nuggets of truth for 16 years to finally get her to leave. And she didn't even ultimately leave. Not when I told her my RPF story, not when I told her about other abuses, nothing. What ended up happening with her is like, she, I started speaking out anonymously. And then people obviously knew who I was, even under a monk year and everything else. And people started showing up at the house and like, oh, hey, how are you doing, Nora? How's everything going? I was like, well, don't, whatever, bro. And I wasn't going to stop. And then she was working for Narconon, and magically, all of a sudden, they had in the budget for her to do OT5. And I was like, Mom, this is not a present for you. They are trying to sec check you. And she's like, no, I'm doing so good. They're sending me to flag for OT5. And I was like, no, that's not a thing. And she's like, oh, no, it's a thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to arrive. They're going to put you on the meter. They're going to do a PTS handling. They're going to immediately try to get you to disconnect from me. And, you know, like I gave her the rundown. Blah, 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 blah. All these things are going to happen. None of that's going to happen. That's the stupidest thing you've ever said. You know, so she arrives. Like the play-by-play of what I told her was going to happen happened. She calls me, tries to do like, you know, she's trying to handle me on the phone. So I just want to apologize to you for anything that I may have done. I said, Mom, are you doing a handling on me? Right? Are you? She's, oh, that's not, Mom, I'm not going to be handled. Like if you're trying to do like a step 2 or something, like, no, I don't need your apologies. So then she doesn't call me for a while. Next day she calls me and I can tell she's like walking real fast. She's out of breath. I said, what's going on? She's like, I think I'm blowing flag right now. I said, what's going on?
You said, whose flag, Mom?
I'm blowing flag. And I said, okay, where are you? Where are you? She's like, I'm on my way back to my room. I said, okay, listen to me very carefully. When you get to your hotel room, I want you to lock all the locks and start packing your bag and put me on speakerphone and tell me exactly what happened. I'm going to call you a taxi and get your flight rebooked. So she tells me what happened. It was exactly what I told her, all the things. And she was like, I can't do this. They want me to do all these things. They want me to disconnect and I'm not going to do it. I told them I'm not disconnecting from you and they are demanding it. And I said, okay, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I've called a taxi. I said, what building are you at? And she was at not the Sandcastle, but the other one. And I said, okay, there's a library down the street. I've called the taxi. It's going to meet you at the library down the street. She's like, I have 3 bags. Why do I have to go to the library down the street? I said, Mom, if the taxi comes to that building, they're going to send it away. Security will send it away. Security's not going to be it. I said, Mom, please just listen to me for a minute. When you open the door, there's going to be people at the door. Do not talk to them. Do not hang up this phone with me. Just keep walking past them. Just keep walking. As soon as she opens the door, 3 SEERG members are there. Hi, Kathy, what's up? How are you? How's it going? I said, Mom, do not talk to them. Do not engage. Do not get in the elevator. Drag your suitcases down the stairs. Just drag them. Just my mom's like trying to be on the phone and dragging 3 suitcases, trying to walk down the street. And they keep like asking, is that Nora on the phone? Is that Nora? Is Nora on the phone with you? So finally, after like the 5th time, I said, Mom, just hand the phone to them and just keep walking. Whatever you do, just keep walking. So the guy gets on the phone. Hi, is this Nora? Hi, how are you? And I was like, listen, my mom's getting in a car. She's getting in the airplane. She's going to fly home. And she and I are going to have a talk. And the guy's like, yeah, but listen, you know, what's going on? Is there a reason why you don't want your mom to go up the bridge? I said, listen, my mom's getting in the taxi. She's going to the airport. She's getting on a plane. She's going to come home and we're going to have a talk. And he's like, yeah, but I don't understand. Why don't you want your mom to go up the bridge? I said, listen, my mom's getting in the taxi. She's getting on a plane. She's going to come home and we're going to have a talk. And the guy asked me the question again. I said, listen, you don't seem to understand. I have 3 RTC passes on TRs 0 to 4 and 6 to 9. I can repeat this all day long. Okay. And he hung up the phone. And then I had a panic and I'm like trying to call my mom back because I thought, oh God, did they like take her phone? What happened? So finally I get her back on the phone and she's like, I'm in the taxi. I'm on my way to the airport. I was like, okay, great. I said, when you get to the airport, if anybody is at the airport, you need to go to the sheriff and not to the police to get them to back off because the police are in the pocket of the church. Do not talk to the police, talk to the sheriff. Nobody followed her there. But when she got to like her, she had a stopover in Phoenix or something. Her head of Narconon called her and was like, what are you doing? You need to get on a plane and go back right now. You need to go back. And she was like, I'm never going back there. What are you talking about? Like, this is crazy. Like, they want me to disconnect from my daughter. And he was like, yeah, well, exactly. You need to go back and handle it. And right then she was like, I'm done. Like, that's it. And she came home and cried, you know, but that was the end for her. It wasn't everything else. And then it took a lot, you know, she had to read a lot of stuff. She read Leah's book, you know, and she started like doing her own research and stuff. And it took a long time for her to stop believing stuff, you know. That's still a journey. But.
Yeah. So what is it that changed from her on the one day where she's trying to handle you. And then the next day when she's like, yeah, I'm out of here. Is it because they were pressuring her? Okay, the handling's not working. You have to disconnect.
It was the disconnection. I mean, she made that clear when she walked in. She said, that's off the table. So don't present that to me. So the first things they were saying is like, she had to like handle me to stop speaking out and to like stop doing stuff. So that was like how she was approaching it. Like,
had you already admitted that you were doing that, or were you still doing it low key?
I think I was being more outwardly vocal. I think I'd stopped, I mean, most people knew it was me anyway. And it like called me out. I mean, they knew it was me. It was a stupid online anonymous name. It was very easy to figure out who I was using Basketball Jane. I mean, like everybody knew that I love basketball anyway, so it was dumb. But and I was telling stories about Celebrity Center that only I could know anyways.
So let me ask you, was this on Marty's blog? Was it?
Oh, it was everywhere. I was on Marty's blog. I was talking out on Tony's, on Mike's when he had his blog going. Yeah, I mean, and I had done a couple other independent interviews, but when everything really hit the fan was like when kind of like a big interview came out, like in the whatever that paper is in England. It's like the
Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did like a whole thing, and then I did like some TV spots and stuff, and then people were like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
And that's when all that stuff happened, I was like worried for a hot minute, but it was like, nothing. That's what everybody gets freaked out about, is they're always like, don't ever say anything. Don't say stuff. And then it's like, ultimately, they don't have any real power. The power lies in not saying what happened, as long as you're not, I mean, obviously, if you make things up, that's one thing. But as long as you're just sticking to what you actually know about and what happened, and really just reading from the texts, I mean, that gets them in more trouble than anything else. I mean, I think, honestly, I mean, the books speak for themselves. I mean, they're really ridiculous. So
Kate says, I watched your interview with Aaron when I was still in the ESO. It was one of the stories that helped me decide to leave. So thank you.
Oh, yay, Catherine.
That's awesome, Catherine. Yeah, so you were talking about the TV show, the Disconnected show, and I realized a lot of our viewers have no idea what we're talking about. So before the Aftermath before the Scientology and the Aftermath show had started production, there was an earlier show that I don't even know if it had a name at this time, but later on it became called Disconnected.
Right. I think that was the running name when I was working on it with basically Jamie DeWolf, who's Elron's great grandson, and a completely different production team. It was a fascinating show because of the people involved. There was some really, and it's unfortunate. I know Leah really tried to basically just take the stories that were there, and put them on Aftermath. Like that was her original intention. And she fought very, very hard with A&E over that, because ultimately A&E owned both shows. And it's just like, it's a Hollywood decision. And I think basically the lawyers took a look at the footage and the interactions that people had with people, and were like, this is too risky. Only because I think the difference between like Aftermath and what I tell people, like when people say, oh, you worked on Aftermath, oh my God, that's crazy, it's amazing. And I'm always like, yes, I was very honored to get to be even like, the back end of it. And again, on Aftermath, I did basically the same thing. Like I helped the producers to understand what all the people they were interviewing were talking about, because they're like, this is another language, what are they even saying? And so like when the little snippets of like the tech would come up, that was basically my job, hunting down the references they were talking about and helping everyone else understand what they were talking about, essentially. But for season 2, that was the season that I worked on. But like I tell people very, very strictly, like the portions that you get to see in the show itself of Aftermath are like the tip of the iceberg. because legally the portions that we can show of a person's story are so just small. Like, you cannot show the totality of someone's story without it veering off into the realm of like fantasy on network television, right? And so in the realm of like a world like A&E, you're very confined to a very definite box that you have to stick to, right? Whereas in the world of like Netflix, right, you get like Tiger King, right? You're just like, what? You know, things just get like,
it's funny. As you were speaking, I had forgot, because the show had been on Netflix for so long. I forgot that it started on a network. It started on A&E. Right.
So it's a different world, right? Like, that's why I think, like, for example, we brought up like Nexium, right? So when you see like The Vow, it's on HBO Max, which is a much more like, you know, they have a lot more play with their ability to dive deeper and like get a little more expose, as it were, because it's a different genre. It's not network television in terms of like the ability to just swear and like all this other, you know what I mean? Like the beeping and the, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? The platform is different. And so it's a little looser in terms of like what they can tell and how they do the storytelling. So it really depends on the format and stuff like that. So with a constricted thing like A&E, and, you know, as their network is, you know, it has to stick with the arts and entertainment. You know, it's just it's a different kettle of fish kind of a situation, which is unfortunate.
I really wish it's probably safe to assume that no matter how much information and how many explanations you and I and various people have received for why this thing not only didn't air, but never could air, it's probably safe to assume we still don't have all the information.
We never will.
Because the information as presented still seems like they could do something with the footage. And here's what I'm saying. Like, and in addition to everything we've discussed as far as, well, you mentioned the problem was a bit like they were trying to accomplish something that we knew could not be accomplished. You can't ambush your Scientologist family members with a camera crew and expect that you're going to reunite. In fact, you're going to guarantee that you're never going to hear from these people again.
Yeah.
And there was also a thing of like the production had essentially hired PIs to sort of follow. I won't use the word stalk and harass because they are PIs, to find and follow these Scientologist family members so that they could, at the right time, ambush them with a camera crew. And it's
basically, I would say it was more like
how would they know where to even shoot?
Because I was on the back end of it. I will say this. Basically, the PI's job was basically to like be like, okay, so we figured out that their schedule is this, and so showing up here will guarantee you'll have an interaction, right? Like they usually
that still sounds
to
like
Kmart
following, doesn't
on
it?
Fridays, so you could run into them at Kmart.
But
they never
it sounds
interact
like following
with the Scientologist, unlike Scientology goons who purposely insert themselves into your life and like make sure that they are saying and interacting with you and like, you know, doing the underhanded you know, operations that we've heard about and like, you know, some of us have experienced and things like that, where people get inserted into your life possibly, or are, you know, like inserted into portions of your life to mess you up and things like that. They were literally observation only to
that
just
makes sense.
Like, where can we possibly meet up so that we could, you know, you would know where they are at this time.
And that makes sense. But that's something I have heard mentioned as that, regardless of where it falls in the spectrum of like following or observing or harassing, right? Like just set that to the side.
But if you hire a PI to do anything, do you know what I mean? Like a private investigator, if I was like, you know, hey, I think my spouse is cheating, they're going to follow that person around and just observe. They're not going to, you know what I mean? Like that's
correct.
Like the same kind of thing. So.
I had heard it said that one of the factors, I'm about to mention a few factors, but one of them was PIs were hired to sort of do to Scientologists and Sea Org members kind of what Scientology does to former Scientologists. And it wasn't a great look that in order to orchestrate these interactions, you actually had to surveil the Scientologists. This might even be the first time you're hearing this. I'm just telling you, it's something I have heard mentioned as that was like one thing, like not a great look. The other thing was that not everybody, but some people received compensation for participating, which started to be a really big problem for reality shows on A&E. Like reality shows were getting nixed when some of the shows were found to that the reality people, the people who weren't actors, some of whom were paid. I'm mentioning all this because even if these things are true, it still wouldn't explain none of the people being able to use in the aftermath, or none of the footage being able to be used. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like everyone wants answers to these questions, and I just feel like there's no way anyone has all the answers.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, my personal knowledge, nobody who was a participant in the show whose like story was meant to be aired was paid any money.
Well, I know at least I know one. I know one. We won't say who.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. To my personal knowledge, like I was hired as a consultant. That's totally different, and I was paid a total of $250 for like working on multiple episodes, which is a bunch of bullshit. So that's like,
well, anyone behind the camera can get paid anything.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like I did not advocate for myself in that role. So
totally, but it is a shame. It really is a shame, and because this is a nice comment from Claire Alice. Great energy, Nora. Thank you. Excellent interview, Aaron. Oh, thank you. Amazing heartwarming to hear an indoctrinated mother choose her daughter.
I am definitely fortunate. I'm one of the very few, I will say, second gen people who had that happen. 100%. It's a rarity, 100% for that to happen. And that is, like I said, but it took me 16 years to make that happen. It was not an overnight process. And that's what I tried to explain to them in the consultation, because they basically were like, well, you guys did it, we could do it. And I'm like, what, are you going to do it over 16 years? like that's not, this is the reality. It takes years, and it took me and my sister together doing it, like little by little by little,
Nora, when you say it took 16 years, when do you start that clock?
So when I left, very dramatically,
left the Sea Org.
When I left the Sea Org, when I left the RPF in November of 2002.
It was 2002? You left right when I got there? You left 2 months? Oh, I didn't even know.
November, I left November 7th, 2002. In very dramatic fashion. Trigger warning for anyone listening. It was after a suicide attempt. I was escorted off the base and taken for my very first Krispy Kreme donut. That was exciting. And taken to an extended stay America and put under a 24-hour watch until they figured out what to do with me, and then made to sign many waivers. And then they very unceremoniously drove me to my parents' house and just dumped me there. At which point I had blown many times. I had just taken off many times prior to that. I'd begged to leave. I had gotten even a whole fitness board where I had to go before a panel of my peers during the RPF, and basically told them that I was completely unfit to be a Sea Org member, that I could not make myself or another person better, and to please just slough me off into society to be, as Gigi Scudolari told me, it's okay if you leave the Sea Org because even if you're a bum, you'll be king of the bums, Gigi Scudolari. They have like the best idioms in the world. This guy off the train,
was that supposed to be a pep talk?
Yeah, basically, I'm not worried about you, Nora. If you become, hooker, you're queen of hookers. It's okay. Thank you. I don't know what that means. But these are your choices, apparently, when you leave the Sea Org. You can be queen of the hookers or king of the bums. Like those are your two options. And in irony, and you remember the head of the RPF, Alex.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I got my fitness board approved. Okay. Fitness board was approved. He sat on it for 3 months.
Oh my God.
And every day I went to him for 3 months and said, "Is my fitness board back?" "Oh, no, I just 3 months. Waited for me to change my mind. 3 months. Finally, after just mental torture and everything else that you go through, I finally was like, well, I guess they're never letting me out of here. I guess I'll just stay. He pulled it out of his bottom drawer, popped it down on his desk, and he said, "I knew you were going to change your mind." I
Oh
could
my
have
God.
I could have just routed out. I could have just routed out.
Mm.
They wouldn't. That was what drove me. Like, people always ask me, like, why did you go in such dramatic fashion? Because after that and everything else that happened that led up to the day that I, like, got to the dramatic fashion, I knew there was literally no escape. And then after trying to off myself, they take me to the Extended Stay America. Who shows up at the Extended Stay America in one of the security patrol cars with the sirens going on the Nora, so come outside right now. Like, on the security thing, Alex shows up. I come outside. I'm like, what are you doing right now? This is like, they're going to call the actual cops. Like, this is crazy. He's like, so are you going to, like, knock off all your bullshit and just, like, come back to work or what? And in that moment, I knew, like, if I didn't just tell him to F off and just say no, I was going to be trapped forever. But there was a part of me that was, like, almost trying to stop me, even in that moment, from saying, I'm done. I just looked at him like I couldn't believe it was real life. And I said, I just was like, I'm done. He's like, fine. And he just like burned out of the parking lot. And I was like, oh my God, like, that's just, like, they will not let you go.
It's crazy.
No matter what. I mean, that's how crazy they are. And then when I was done, they're still harassing me. They're still, like, now they don't care anymore. They're just, I'm small beans now. They don't care about me anymore.
Well, for anyone who wonders, I mean, that's what's so funny to us when we see Scientology describe us as they were expelled. Bitch, you don't expel anybody until they've already left.
Like, now they declared me an SP after I started speaking out. I was like,
right.
Uh-oh, hot dog. They were mad at me because they started charging, everybody's got their freeloader debt, right? You have this huge debt now you have to pay back because I had all that training and all that other stuff. Flag was after me for my debt as soon as I got home from the Golden Age of Tech because Cece didn't pay it. And I was like, I went to Treasury and I was like, y'all didn't pay for my training? I thought that was part of the deal. Like, you guys are supposed, how come you guys didn't pay Flag while I was there for all those months? What happened? Why are they sending me a bill? You guys, you send them a check. I still work here. So now I've got two bills. I've got Flag's bill and I got this other bill coming to me. So when I was super poor and I first left, I was like, well, I'll pay $10 a week towards this enormous bill. That's going to pay it in the next 5 lifetimes, I'm sure. $10 a week. I can do that. And then the finance lady got creative with my bank account, which I could not afford anything because I was poor and broke and I did not have a good job when I first left the Sea Org. And she charged it like 3 times and it like it made my bank go over. And and so I was like, oh no, I'm canceling that card. And I wrote her up, wrote a report, and I was like, no. And she ended up like going to the RPF because apparently she was doing that to a lot of people's cards. It wasn't just me. And then people were like, oh, blah, 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 blah about your bill. And I was like, you know what? I'm not liking this whole bill situation. I don't feel like this is fair and equitable. So I started experiencing the real world and getting like paid and benefits and like hourly wages and all this stuff. And I was thinking about like how we got paid, like, $35 a week and like then $50. And then when I was on the RPF, that was only $12.75 a week. And they still took taxes out of that. So that $12.75 became $11.34 after taxes, y'all. $11.34 a week. Okay. So then I was like, well, let me do the math on how much labor we did per week, per year, and just put the bare minimum wage, like $7.75 on there. And then, no overtime. I'm not going to charge y'all overtime, like time and a half or anything like that. Just, we'll just call it a 70-hour work week. Just multiply it by the years. And I was like, actually, you guys owe me $50,000. So I'll take that in the form of a check. And I wrote them like a whole letter with like a spreadsheet and sent it in. They got very upset about that. That was actually the first thing I did before I started speaking out. But they stopped sending me my bill after that.
I bet they did.
Yeah. They did not appreciate my bill.
So you leave the Sea Org in 2002. All these former executives like Mike and Marty and the rest didn't really come out until 2009 publicly. So then from 2009, I assume pretty much right away, right? Are you commenting pretty much right away?
Oh, immediately. I mean, as soon as I saw that Marty left, I think my mom went down and saw Marty after he left, and he was starting to, they didn't get any auditing or anything from him, but they went and met him. When Mike started his blog, I started commenting right away and just like, keeping up with whatever he was talking about.
Did you know, Nora, that they hacked Marty's blog and got the email addresses and IP addresses of everybody who had submitted comments on his blog?
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Do you know how I know that I know? Because Osa confronted me with my anonymous blog posts. And I just lied my ass off that it wasn't me. And they're like, well,
of course he did.
We have this email address. I was super clever, Nora. It was ASL123. Yes. Thank God I created that anonymous email address that was basically my initials. And then they're like, that could be anybody. ASL, it means nothing. And they're like, well, there is this IP address. I'm like, IP address? What's an IP address? Well, it goes to this gated community. I don't live in a gated community. Well, you live behind that little thing. That's not a gated community. Well, we don't care what you call it. We care that this address goes to the building that you live in, and your email address is ASL. And I'm just like, was it me?
We're like, how are you tracking my IP address?
And so at first, it begs the question, either Marty's already leaking them that info early on, or Osa hacked the website. But I asked Mike recently, I said, what are the chances, even what are the remote chances Marty was already feeding Scientology that kind of info back then? And he's like, no, not back then. He goes, Marty really didn't start going back, having his little breakdown and wanting to go back until after but after the Louis Theroux, My Scientology movie. That's really when it started.
Yeah.
And so he's like, it's so easy to hack those WordPress sites. It's nothing for Scientology to figure out how to do that.
Oh no, they're awful. They're absolutely awful. I mean, and I will say this. I mean, having my own personal experiences with Marty in the Sea Org, and then, out of the Sea Org, like having conversations with him and stuff like that. I have a lot of opinions, about what happened with his wife and what happened as a result of the court case and everything else. And, my own personal opinions about how things went very, very sour and how he ended up where he is today. And I think, and this is personal opinion. And so people can take it as they want, but I think that, having gone through my own and still going through, thank you very much, my own personal mental health, journey on deprogramming and sloughing off, the burden that is Scientology in your brain. Marty has not done that work. Marty has gone in a gigantic circle in Scientology. He made money leaving Scientology. He had no other skills in life other than Scientology and the ability to enforce Scientology, unfortunately. And he did not take the time necessary with the funds that he had, because unlike a lot of us who left, he had funds. He had money. He could have just very easily gone to that tiny town, bought a house, gone fishing and just been quiet and had some quiet time to decompress, to not be any part of Scientology, to not have anything to do with anyone having to do with Scientology, which would have probably saved his life. And had I, had a chance to be his friend at that time, that is 100% what I would have recommended to him. And that's 100% what I recommend to anybody leaving any form of cult, is to like take some time for yourself. Let things settle. Because the first thing, people go through many stages of grief and anger and stuff. However, Marty continued to practice Scientology. He still does now. Then he went through his whole like weird guru phase where he was like starting his own, I don't know what he was doing. And now he's just back to, spouting Scientological nonsense. He never actually left Scientology. That's the truth of the matter. He never left Scientology. He never left the beliefs of Scientology. He left the Sea organization, and then somehow ended up again in some form of agreement with them. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't have any facts about that. I only have my assumptions. I can say conclusively that along with the Thoreau movie, which did not help his mental health at all to do that, the court case and the things that happened to his wife, which were disgusting and awful, drove him probably partially insane, as it would to any human being, because those
true, very true.
And having the burden of all of the things Scientologically in his brain that he has, on top of, all of the criminal things that he's done to other human beings as a result of being in Scientology that he has not taken responsibility for, that he's not made amends to those individuals for, is a whole other burden to bear. So a lot of people out there are like, well, this is his karma, blah, 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 blah. That's for him to deal with on his own cosmic karmic level. I don't wish anyone ill, My interactions with Marty and the Sea Org were very non-confrontational. I did not ever have to incur his wrath, thankfully, or Mike's for that matter. That's a whole other thing. Mike has his own reputation as well. He was not a kitten cat in the Sea Org. He was a very powerful person. Everybody had their own thing. I mean, I was just a coarse word clearer. I did not have a wrath to impose on anybody out there, except for if you were late to course or you didn't turn in your points. I mean, then yes, I was very cranky. Yeah. Or if you didn't, come in and do that extra time. But you know what I mean? It's like, but I've still apologized to people when I've had the chance to be like, hey, I know I contributed to you being in Scientology longer, and I want to say I'm sorry for, for doing that, because I know that wasted your time in indoctrinating you in this stuff that, ultimately wasn't great, Yeah. But that's all you can do. You can only, take responsibility for the things that you have responsibility for.
It's true. It's true. My daughter just texted me, and I've got to go pick her up in about 10 minutes. But there are a bunch of questions that people have asked that
let's do it.
Let's do lightning round here. Here's a very light, simple question.
Okay.
How did you deal with being gay in Scientology?
I did not. That is the answer to that, Claire. Basically, in a nutshell, you're 0% allowed to be gay. I dealt with it by making it a secret. I had a secret relationship with a woman for a year. It was very sexy. We did nothing. We didn't even open mouth kiss. There was no tongues. And then I got RPF'd for that. It is the least sexy Netflix series to ever exist. The only woman I've ever been with is my wife. And turns out I'm super gay. So, yeah.
Debbie Logan, Marty and his wife owned a bakery where I used to be. As far as I know, they still own the bakery. In fact, Marty's wife was just on one of those TLC baking shows.
Oh, good. See, like, I hope she does really well.
Well,
when I
it was
saw
one of those
come
like
up on
competitions,
Facebook,
those competition baker shows.
like her stuff looked really good. Like I was like, good for you. Like I hope she does well.
Yeah. Aaron, is there an interview with you and Nora on her story? We've done a few interviews, but I don't remember if it specifically. I feel like we would have spoken about your story.
I don't know if we did a whole thing just about. I mean, I think we always just chit chat about. I don't know.
But anyway, if you just go to my channel and search the word Nora, you'll at least see what's there, and then you let me know. Did we talk about her story? I don't remember. I have no idea. All right.
We can do that.
Yeah, that's the great thing about having a nice little chat-friendly platform like this. We can talk all the time, anytime. John, Aaron, and Nora, really appreciate you both. I'm curious, as an under-the-radar Scientologist, what is your honest opinion of those of us that keep fair roads, fair weather to stay connected to family?
That is hard, man. We've been there, done that. And I will say this to you. I think what you're doing, I understand it 100%, John. I understand where you're coming from, and you're trying to like Miley Cyrus your way through life, best of both worlds. Okay. But the Hannah Montana thing can only get you so far, and it's going to blow up in your face. So what you have to do is you have to choose like grace good for the greatest number of your dynamics, my friend. You really need to choose, honestly, what is making you the most happy. Okay. And at some point you're going to figure out, and I'm not trying to make this choice for you, but at some point you're going to figure out it's not actually Scientology. But you need to decide really like how to make your life either work with Scientology and just stick in there and just do it 100%, or like Scientology isn't your jam and make your road out of there, because there is life outside of it. There are friends outside of it. There's complete life outside of it. But Scientology makes you think everything is there, and it's just not. It's just not.
And my 2 cents on that as well is I was you for many years, 5 years.
That
5 years. From 2009 to 2014, people go, how did you escape from Scientology? I go, I was trying not to get declared. I was lying my ass off for years just so that my wife wouldn't lose her family. But I wasn't doing a very good job at being like Mr. Super Secret Spy. Like everyone knew what the hell I was doing, because there was always that little part of me that was like, I kind of wanted people to know, and I would like slip little hints here and there without realizing those little hints were going to have massive consequences. Yeah. And so, but the thing is, like, but I'll tell you, there's I get contacted by people on both ends of the spectrum right now. I've been in touch recently with people who are I have particular people in mind when I'm saying this. They are the ones who are going to pull the plug because they're sick of living in fear, and they go, what quality of a relationship am I trying to maintain if these people would disconnect from me at the drop of a hat, from the one word from the ethics officer, and they would never see me again? Why am I living my life the way that I am to maintain relationships with people who would throw me away in a heartbeat? Now, that's not how I was. That's not the frame of mind I was in for 5 years. I was more than happy to continue to stay within the ecosystem and secretly be feeding information to Mike and Marty. And I appreciate people who do that now and give me information because they would rather stay in. So, John, it really is whatever you're comfortable with. There's no right or wrong path. Yeah. There just isn't. You're doing what's best for you right now. In the future, you might feel like something else is what's best for you, and it's to each their own, for real.
But you never know too. There might be some, if it's like your family, they might also be struggling with it. So you have to, sometimes it's worth the risk to have the conversation, because they might also be wondering if you're thinking the same thing. And sometimes you're all thinking the same thing, and everybody's just waiting for somebody to have the conversation. So you never know.
What I recommend, create a bunch of anonymous email accounts and start sending your family members stuff and see what happens. Do they answer? Do they answer? Like, send your family members stuff anonymously. I sent a lot of people stuff anonymously, and that's not how I got caught. That was working actually. Okay, so this has been a lot of fun. I do have to go get my my oldest is babysitting, and she finished up earlier than she thought that she was going to finish up. So but hey, I don't mind doing this late. I have this whole recording space that I can do anytime, day and night, without being interrupted by anybody. So let's do this. This is a lot of fun. Let's do this. Okay, in the comments section, write down the questions you have for Nora. We'll take it up next time. And also, what questions do you have about her story? Honestly, it can be so boring as hell to sit down for 4 or 5 hours. When we were doing the TV shows, you can interview somebody for 2 days and you haven't heard their whole story.
Right. Oh my God. No.
Right. So that's why it's more fun to do these chats, to kind of wander all around the place. But put down in the chat what questions you have for Nora, and we'll chew on those.
Plus, Aaron and I have stories. Y'all could ask anything.
So much stories. So much stories. You want tea? We got tea.
We got some tea.
We got everyone. Tea. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, and we will see you next time.
Balake.
Oh my God, here we go.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.